The great hall of the Volante Empire stretched for nearly a mile. Crystal pillars rose toward a ceiling painted with stars and ancient victories. 10,000 nobles filled the chamber, their purple skin shimmering under floating lights. They had gathered for the most unusual event in their empire's long history. A human was about to meet their Princess Empress. Daniel Carter stood at the entrance of the hall. He was 28 years old, with brown hair and calm gray eyes. He wore the formal black suit of the Terran Republic, simple compared to the flowing robes around him. His father, Ambassador Nathan Carter, had spent 3 years negotiating this moment. A marriage between humanity and the Volante would bring peace to a quarter of the galaxy. Daniel took a deep breath and began the long walk toward the throne. The Volante were tall and elegant. They had ruled their corner of space for 12,000 years. Their technology was ancient when humans still lived in caves. To them, humanity was young, loud, and dangerously primitive. The fact that humans had spread across 300 worlds in just 2 centuries made them nervous. This marriage was meant to turn a potential enemy into a friend. Princess Empress Seralith Velcora sat upon a throne of living crystal. She was beautiful in the way a blade is beautiful. Her silver hair fell past her shoulders. Her golden eyes watched Daniel approach with obvious disgust. She had opposed this marriage from the beginning. Her father, the dying emperor, had overruled her. Now she was forced to accept this creature from a death world as her future husband. The walk took nearly 5 minutes. Daniel felt every eye upon him. He heard whispers in the Volante language. He understood them perfectly, though they did not know this. They called him Dirt Crawler and Beast, and the Emperor's mistake. He kept his face calm and his steps steady. Finally, he reached the base of the throne and bowed deeply. "Princess Empress Seralith," he said in clear Volante, "I am honored to stand before you. I come in peace and in hope for friendship between our peoples." A murmur went through the crowd. His Volante was flawless, but Seralith's expression only grew colder. "You speak our language," she said. "How charming. Like a pet that has learned a trick." Laughter rippled through the hall. Daniel did not react. "Tell me, human," Seralith continued, her voice carrying to every corner. "Do you know why you are here? It is not because you have value. It is because your species breeds like insects and spreads like disease. This marriage is medicine, a way to keep you controlled." Daniel remained still. His heart beat faster, but his face showed nothing. "Look at him," Seralith announced to the crowd. "This is the best humanity could offer. A small, fragile thing from a world of poison air and crushing gravity. They call Earth a paradise. We call it a death world. Only monsters could evolve there." She stood from her throne and walked down the steps toward him. Her guards tensed, but she waved them away. She circled Daniel slowly, examining him like one might examine an animal at market. "Soft skin that tears easily," she noted. "Weak bones that break. A lifespan of barely a century. And yet they think themselves worthy of standing beside the Volante." She stopped in front of him, her golden eyes meeting his gray ones. "You will never be my equal, human. You will never be my partner. You will be a symbol, a reminder to your people of their proper place in this galaxy." The hall fell silent. This moment was being broadcast to 10,000 worlds. Billions watched as the Princess Empress humiliated humanity's representative. Daniel looked at her calmly. "I understand, Princess Empress," he said quietly. "I am here to serve the peace between our peoples, whatever form that takes." Something flickered in Seralith's eyes. She had expected anger. She had expected tears or protests. This calm acceptance confused her. "Take him to his quarters," she ordered, turning away. "The servant's wing will do." Daniel bowed again as guards led him away. The crowd buzzed with conversation. They had witnessed a perfect demonstration of Volanthy superiority. The human had been put in his place, but in a dark room in the palace, the Emperor watched the broadcast with different eyes. Velkara the Wise was dying slowly. He had perhaps 6 months left. He had chosen this marriage knowing his daughter would hate it. He had chosen this particular human after reading hundreds of files. He watched Daniel's face during the entire humiliation. The young man never lost his composure. His eyes showed no hatred, no fear, no submission. They showed patience. The Emperor had seen that look before. Long ago, when the Volanthy were young, they had warriors called the Unbroken. These warriors conquered not through strength but through endurance. They waited. They watched. They let enemies exhaust themselves against an unmovable will. The last of the Unbroken had died 3,000 years ago. But watching this human, the Emperor felt a strange recognition. Interesting, he murmured to himself. Meanwhile, Daniel reached his small room in the servants' wing. It was simple but clean. He sat on the bed and finally allowed himself to feel the weight of the day. His hands trembled slightly. His communicator buzzed. A message from his father. "I'm sorry, son. I didn't know it would be that bad. We can cancel this. No one would blame you." Daniel typed back slowly. "No, this is bigger than my pride. If one human can build a bridge between our species, the cost doesn't matter. I'll stay." He set down the communicator and looked out the small window. Strange stars filled an alien sky. Somewhere out there, Earth continued spinning. His mother had died wishing for peace. His older brother had died in the border wars with species who feared humanity. Daniel had volunteered for this mission. He had trained for 3 years in Volanthy language, customs, and combat arts. He had known he would face hatred. He had accepted it, because hatred could become understanding. Understanding could become respect. And respect, given enough time, could become something more. He began unpacking his few belongings. Tomorrow, he would start learning the palace routines. He would be polite to everyone he met. He would complete every task given to him, no matter how degrading. The Princess Empress wanted to break him. But Daniel Carter had grown up on Earth, a world of earthquakes and storms and predators. Humans did not break easily. They endured. And sometimes, that was enough to change everything. 3 weeks passed in the Volanthy Palace. Daniel Carter learned to wake before dawn and sleep long after midnight. The Princess Empress had assigned him duties that no future royal spouse should perform. He cleaned floors. He carried heavy burdens. He served food to nobles who laughed at him openly. He did everything without complaint. The palace staff watched him with growing curiosity. A young servant named Lyris was the first to speak kindly to him. She found him scrubbing floors one morning. His hands raw from harsh cleaning chemicals that Volanthy skin could ignore, but human skin could not. "You should wear protection," she said softly. Glancing around to make sure no one watched, Daniel looked up and smiled. "Thank you for your concern. I will manage. Why do you accept this?" Lyris asked. "You are supposed to marry the Princess Empress. You should not be a servant." "Every task has value," Daniel replied. "Every job teaches something. And kindness like yours makes the hard days easier." Lyris walked away confused. She had expected bitterness. She had expected self-pity. This human showed neither. Word spread quietly among the servants. The human worked harder than anyone asked. He learned everyone's name. He helped carry loads without being told. When an elderly cook dropped a tray of expensive dishes, Daniel was there instantly. Helping clean up and insisting the accident was partly his fault, so the cook would not be punished. Commander Megan Torres, Daniel's human security attach, watched these events with mixed feelings. She had grown up with Daniel on Earth. They had trained together, studied together, and she had volunteered to protect him during this mission. Watching him endure daily humiliation was painful. "You don't have to do this," she told him one evening. "There are limits to diplomacy. There are no limits to patience," Daniel replied. "Not for something this important." The broadcast networks across the galaxy had turned Daniel into an unexpected story. The human groom, they called him. Viewers from dozens of species watched clips of his daily life. They watched him work without anger. They watched him remain polite to those who mocked him. Something about his quiet dignity captured attention, but not all attention was friendly. Prince Aldrich Vale Sorath had wanted to marry Siralith himself. He came from one of the oldest noble families, and the marriage would have united two great houses. Instead, a human had taken his place. His hatred burned cold and patient. One evening, Aldrich approached Daniel in the garden where the human sat reading. "I challenge you," Aldrich announced loudly. Other nobles gathered quickly, sensing entertainment. A traditional honor duel. Surely even a beast from Earth knows what that means. Daniel closed his book calmly. "I know what it means. I accept." Surprise flickered across Aldrich's face. The honor duel used energy staffs and followed strict rules. It required years of training. Surely this human was bluffing. The duel took place the next day in the palace arena. Siralith watched from her private box, expecting quick entertainment. Daniel would be humiliated once again. The two combatants faced each other. Aldrich was tall and graceful, his movements showing decades of practice. Daniel seemed small beside him. The signal sounded. Aldrich attacked with blinding speed. His staff swept toward Daniel's legs. And Daniel moved, not perfectly, not with Volante grace, but with surprising competence. He blocked, dodged, and even counterattacked. The crowd gasped. This human had trained in their combat arts. The duel lasted 7 minutes. Aldrich eventually won, scoring 3 touches to Daniel's 1. But the victory felt hollow. Everyone had expected instant defeat. Instead, they had witnessed a human fight with Volante weapons and survive. Daniel bowed to his opponent. "Thank you for the lesson. I have much to learn." Aldrich said nothing. His face showed confusion and the beginning of something like respect done in her private box. Siralith gripped her seat. The human had known about honor duels. He had trained specifically in Volante combat. He had prepared for this mission with a dedication she had not expected. That night, she found herself reviewing his file. Daniel Carter, son of Ambassador Nathan Carter, and Dr. Elizabeth Carter, deceased. One brother, Lieutenant Kevin Carter, killed in border conflicts. 3 years of intensive training before the mission. Fluent in 14 languages. Degrees in xenobiology and diplomatic relations. This was not some random human chosen for sacrifice. This was someone who had dedicated years of his life to building peace. Someone who had lost family to war and chosen diplomacy over revenge. Siralith closed the file, disturbed. 2 days later, a more serious event shook the palace. A terrorist attack. A radical group opposed to the Human Alliance had planted explosives in the Eastern Wing. Daniel was walking near the area with Lyris when he noticed something wrong. A service worker moved strangely, their hands trembling, their eyes wild. "Get down!" Daniel shouted, pushing Lyris to the ground. The explosion came. Daniel covered the young servant with his own body. Debris rained down. When the dust cleared, Daniel was bleeding from a dozen cuts, but Lyris was unharmed. Security forces arrived quickly. The attacker was captured. But the footage of Daniel protecting a Volante servant spread across the galaxy within hours. Siralith watched the video 17 times. The human had not hesitated. He had not calculated whether saving a servant was worth the risk. He had simply acted. He had protected someone who was not his responsibility with his own body. It was luck, she told herself, instinct. It means nothing. But her voice lacked conviction. That night, Daniel received a small package at his door. Inside was a medical kit with advanced healing supplies, far better than what servants had access to. There was no note, no signature. Daniel smiled softly. He recognized the royal seal pressed faintly into the packaging. He had been leaving small gifts for Sorelith each week. A rare flower from the palace gardens. A poem written in careful Volanti script. A small carving he had made with his own hands. She had thrown each gift away publicly, making sure everyone saw her contempt. But now, she had sent something back. It was not forgiveness. It was not acceptance. But it was something. Daniel carefully applied the healing treatment to his wounds. Outside, the strange stars turned slowly across the alien sky. Change came slowly in the galaxy. Empires rose and fell across millennia. Species evolved and died across ages. But sometimes, change started with something small. A gift sent in secret. A crack in a wall of contempt. Daniel was patient. He could wait. Humans were very good at waiting. 1 month before the wedding, the galaxy grew tense. The Kreth Dominion, an old enemy of the Volanti Empire, began moving warships near the border. Their leader, Warlord Thasic, saw opportunity in the chaos. A weakened empire distracted by a controversial marriage made a tempting target. The Kreth were a brutal species. They had fought 3 wars against the Volanti over 2,000 years. Each war had ended in stalemate. Now, Thasic smelled blood. His first move was diplomatic. He sent an official message to the Volanti court, broadcast publicly for maximum insult. In it, he refused to recognize the upcoming marriage. He called Daniel a pet and questioned whether the Volanti had grown so weak that they needed to breed with animals. The court watched the message in silence. Many nobles agreed with the Kreth, though they would never say so openly. But something unexpected happened to Princess Empress Sorelith. As she watched, she felt anger. Not the cold contempt she had shown before. Real anger. Hot and surprising. The Kreth had no right to insult someone under Volanti protection. Daniel was hers to mock. Hers to judge. Not some outside warlord. The strength of her own reaction confused her. That same week, her father summoned Daniel to his private chambers. Emperor Velcora the Wise was dying. His purple skin had faded to gray. His breathing came in shallow gasps. But his eyes remained sharp. "Sit with me," the emperor said. "I want to understand you." Daniel sat beside the ancient ruler. He had not spoken with the emperor since arriving. "You have endured much," the emperor said. "My daughter has made your life difficult. Yet you stay. Why?" Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke the truth. "I volunteered for this mission. I knew what would happen. I accepted it because peace is worth more than my comfort. My brother died fighting wars that should never have started. My mother died hoping for a galaxy where species work together instead of fearing each other. I cannot bring them back, but I can try to build what they dreamed of." The emperor studied him carefully. "You could have demanded respect. Your government could have complained about your treatment. They have done neither. Why?" "Respect cannot be demanded," Daniel said. "It must be earned. And complaints would only prove that I am weak. I would rather show strength through patience than through protest." The emperor smiled faintly. "Long ago, we had warriors called the Unbroken. They conquered through endurance, not violence. They are gone now. But you remind me of them." He reached out and gripped Daniel's hand with surprising strength. "My daughter is proud because she was taught to be proud. Her mother died when she was young. I raised her to believe our people were superior because I thought it would protect her. I was wrong. Pride is not armor. It is a cage." He coughed weakly. "Help her see beyond the cage. Human." She is better than she shows. Daniel nodded slowly. I will try. Later that day, the Emperor summoned Saralith. He repeated some of what Daniel had told him. He spoke of lost families and chosen sacrifice. He spoke of strength that looked like softness. You underestimate him, the Emperor said. You underestimate all of them. Saralith stood rigid. They are primitives. They spread across 300 worlds in 2 centuries. They fought enemies that should have destroyed them and survived. They built ships and weapons that rival our own. And they did this while we slept in our ancient glory, believing we had nothing to learn. He gripped her arm. The galaxy is changing, daughter. Humanity is part of that change. You can fight it and be crushed, or you can adapt and lead. That is the choice before you. That night, Saralith found herself unable to sleep. She walked to a private archive and began watching recordings. Not just Daniel's file, but recordings of human history. Their wars and their art, their cruelty and their compassion. Their endless, restless drive to grow and explore. She watched footage of humans rebuilding after disasters, helping strangers without reward, fighting against impossible odds and somehow surviving. One recording showed a human soldier in an old war. He was surrounded, wounded, certain to die. But instead of surrendering, he used his last moments to radio the location of enemy forces, saving thousands of his allies. His final words were calm. Tell my wife I love her. It was worth it. Saralith watched that recording 3 times. Meanwhile, danger gathered in the shadows. High Priestess Morvana, Saralith's advisor, had always hated the human alliance. She believed it weakened the Empire. In secret, she met with Prince Aldrich, who still burned from his duel with Daniel. The wedding must not happen, Morvana said. But we cannot act alone. We need outside help. Aldrich understood. The Kreth. They want chaos. We want the human gone. Our interests align. A secret message went out to Warlord Thasek. Plans began forming in darkness. Daniel sensed nothing of this conspiracy, but he felt the growing tension in the palace. Something was wrong. Something was coming. One evening, he encountered Saralith alone in a garden. She stood watching the sunset, her face unreadable. Princess Empress, he said quietly. She did not turn. Why do you not hate me? She asked suddenly. I have given you every reason, but your eyes show no hatred. Daniel walked closer, standing beside her. Hatred is heavy. It takes energy to carry. I would rather use that energy for something better. Better? She turned to face him. I have humiliated you before the galaxy. I have called you an animal. What could be better than revenge? Daniel looked at her calmly. Understanding, growth, maybe even friendship. Hatred only creates more hatred. But patience can create something new. He paused. What are you afraid of? The question struck her like a blow. She had expected many things from this human. Arguments, pleas, anger, but not this quiet question that cut to the heart of everything. She had no answer. She walked away without another word. But the question stayed with her, echoing through her thoughts. What was she afraid of? Perhaps she was afraid that everything she believed about humans was wrong. Perhaps she was afraid of what that would mean about herself. The wedding day arrived under a sky of golden light. The great hall had been transformed. Flowers from 100 worlds decorated every surface. Music filled the air. 10 billion beings across the galaxy watched the broadcast. This was history in the making. Daniel stood at the altar in formal white robes designed to blend Terran and Volanthi tradition. He looked calm, but his heart raced. Whatever happened today would shape the future of 2 civilizations. The doors opened, and Princess Empress Saralith entered. She wore silver and gold, her gown flowing like liquid metal. A crown of living crystal sat upon her silver hair. She was beautiful beyond words. And for the first time, uncertainty showed in her golden eyes. The past weeks had changed something inside her. She no longer looked at Daniel with contempt. She looked at him with confusion, with doubt, with questions she could not answer. The Emperor sat upon a floating throne nearby. He was too weak to stand, but he had insisted on attending. This was his final gift to his people. A bridge between old and new, the ceremony began. Ancient words were spoken. Vows were exchanged. Daniel's voice was steady and clear. Seralith's voice trembled slightly, surprising everyone who knew her. Then disaster struck. The windows exploded inward. Figures in black armor dropped from the ceiling. Energy weapons fired into the crowd. Screams filled the hall. KRETH assassins. 24 of them. Sent by Warlord Thasic with help from Morvana and Aldrich. The Volanthi guards moved to protect the nobles, but they were outnumbered and surprised. Several fell in the first moments of attack. Daniel did not hesitate. He grabbed Seralith and pulled her behind a pillar as energy bolts scorched the air around them. "Stay here," he ordered, his voice suddenly hard and commanding. "What are you doing?" Seralith demanded, but Daniel was already moving. He grabbed the fallen guard's weapon and fired with surprising accuracy. 2 assassins dropped. Commander Megan Torres appeared beside him with the human security team. 5 guards total, but they moved with deadly precision. "Form a perimeter around the royal family." Daniel shouted. The humans moved like a single unit. They had trained for this. They had prepared for this. The Volanthi nobles who had mocked them now cowered behind their protection. An assassin charged toward the Emperor's throne. The old ruler was helpless, unable to move from his seat. Seralith screamed. Daniel ran. He crossed the distance in seconds, placing himself between the assassin and the Emperor. The energy blade meant for the old ruler struck Daniel instead. He fell, but the moment's delay was enough. Megan shot the assassin down. Other humans rushed to protect the Emperor. The tide of battle turned. Inspired by the human sacrifice, the Volanthi guards rallied. They fought with new fury. Within minutes, the remaining assassins were killed or captured. Aldrich was found hiding behind a pillar, his hands still holding a communicator linked to the Kreth fleet. He was dragged before the court in chains. "Traitor!" Nobles shouted. "Betrayer!" But Seralith barely heard them. She ran to where Daniel lay bleeding on the floor. The energy blade had struck his chest. The wound was deep and terrible. Blood soaked his white robes. Yet his eyes were open and he was breathing. "The Emperor," Daniel whispered. "Is he safe?" Seralith felt tears on her face. When had she started crying? "He is safe. You saved him. You fool. You stupid, brave fool." Daniel smiled weakly. "Worth it." Medical teams arrived. They worked desperately to save Daniel's life. The finest Volanthi technology fought to heal wounds that would have killed any of their kind instantly. But humans were different. Humans evolved on a death world. Their bodies could endure damage that seemed impossible. Daniel survived. Barely. He fell into a deep healing sleep, his life hanging by a thread, and then the other blow fell. Emperor Velcora the Wise died an hour later. Not from wounds, but from the strain. His weak heart could not handle the stress of the attack. He passed quietly, his hand in his daughter's grip. His final words were whispered so softly that only Seralith heard them. "He is worthy. You know this now." Seralith sat between 2 beds that night. Her father's body lay cold on one side. Daniel lay fighting for life on the other. She did not sleep. She did not eat. She simply sat and thought about everything that had happened. The human had been ridiculed. He had been mocked and humiliated before the galaxy. And when the moment came, he had bled for those who despised him. He had saved her father. He had protected Volanti nobles. He had asked nothing in return. 3 days passed. Daniel remained unconscious. His vital signs slowly improved. Megan Torres stood guard outside his door, refusing to leave. On the third night, Saralith finally spoke to her. He is the bravest person I have ever known. Megan looked at the Princess Empress with tired eyes. He always was. You just never bothered to look. Saralith accepted the rebuke in silence. It was deserved. On the fourth day, Daniel opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was Saralith sitting beside his bed, her silver hair uncombed, her golden eyes red from exhaustion and tears. You stayed, he whispered. I stayed, she confirmed. I had nowhere else I wanted to be. Daniel reached out weakly. His hand found hers. She did not pull away. I'm sorry about your father, he said. He died proud of the alliance he built. He died believing in this future. She paused. In you. Daniel closed his eyes. Then we should make sure his belief was not wasted. Outside the room, the galaxy waited. They had watched the wedding attack broadcast live. They had seen the humans stand between assassins and an alien emperor. They had seen him fall and bleed for people who had called him an animal god. Everything was about to change. The footage played across 10,000 worlds. Every species in the known galaxy watched the human groom stand against assassins. They watched him take a blade meant for an alien emperor. They watched him fall, his blood staining the white robes of peace. For days, it was all anyone talked about. He protected them, a Rithani merchant said to his partner. They treated him like dirt, and he protected them. Perhaps we misjudged humans, a Cavalier scientist wrote in a widely shared article. Their bodies are fragile, yes, but their spirits seem unbreakable. The Kreth Dominion faced universal condemnation. Allies abandoned them. Trade routes closed. Warlord Thasek found himself isolated, his foolish assassination attempt having united the galaxy against him. Admiral Larn Mitchell arrived with the Terran Republic fleet 2 days after the attack. 30 warships, the finest humanity had built. But they came not for war. Mitchell sent a simple message. We come to honor the alliance. We come to stand beside our friends. The Volanti, who had expected anger or demands, found only support. Terran medical teams helped treat the wounded. Terran engineers helped repair damage to the palace. Human diplomats worked beside Volanti officials to manage the crisis, though it was not what anyone expected. Daniel recovered slowly. Volanti medical technology was advanced, but even it struggled with human biology. His body healed in ways their doctors had never seen. Wounds that should have killed him instead closed and strengthened. Deathworld evolution, one doctor muttered in amazement. They are designed to survive. 1 week after the attack, Saralith announced her coronation. She would become Empress of the Volanti in a ceremony broadcast across the galaxy. And she requested Daniel at her side. Daniel walked into the great hall on unsteady legs. He still wore bandages beneath his formal robes. But he stood tall, and his gray eyes were clear. The hall was packed. Nobles, dignitaries, and representatives from dozens of species filled every seat. More watched through screens across known space. This was more than a coronation. This was a statement. Saralith wore the crown of her ancestors. She looked out at the assembled crowd with new eyes. The pride was still there, but it was tempered now. Shaped into something stronger, she began to speak. My father dreamed of a future where the Volanti did not stand alone. He believed that true strength came from unity, not isolation. He gave his final years to building a bridge between our people and humanity. She paused. I did not share his vision. I was cruel to the man chosen to be my partner. I called him an animal. I humiliated him before the galaxy. I believed I was showing strength. Her voice grew quieter. I was showing weakness. Real strength is not in pride. It is not in cruelty. Real strength is patience, sacrifice, standing up for others, even when they have given you nothing but contempt. She turned to Daniel. This human taught me what I should have learned long ago. And he taught not through words or arguments, but through actions. When assassins came, he did not flee. When my father faced death, Daniel stood between them. He bled for us. He nearly died for us. The hall was utterly silent. I was wrong about humanity. I was wrong about many things. She reached out and took Daniel's hand. In the ancient tradition of our people, I grant him the title Velkoran. It means one who belongs to the throne. It is the highest honor we can give to one not born Volanthi. Daniel Carter has earned it through blood and sacrifice. A wave of murmurs swept through the crowd. The title had not been granted to any outsider in 3,000 years. Daniel stepped forward. His voice was quiet but clear. I came here seeking peace. I found something more. I found a people of great history and proud tradition. I found a princess who challenged everything I believed about myself. And I found proof that understanding can grow from the hardest soil. He looked at Sir Aleth. I did not ask for love. I do not demand respect. But I offer a partnership. True partnership, built on honesty and shared purpose. Together, we can show the galaxy what is possible. Sir Aleth smiled. It was the first genuine smile she had ever given him. Together, she agreed. The coronation completed. Sir Aleth became empress. And then, in a private ceremony witnessed only by close friends, the wedding finally happened. This time, there were no attacks. No speeches of contempt. Only two people who had found something unexpected in each other. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy transformed. Species who had feared humanity now sought alliances. Trade routes opened. Scientific exchanges began. The Terran Republic gained 100 new partners. The Kreth Dominion, isolated and weakened, eventually sued for peace. Warlord Thasik was overthrown by his own generals. Prince Aldrich was exiled to a prison moon. High Priestess Morvana was stripped of her rank and disappeared into obscurity. 1 year after the wedding, Daniel and Sir Aleth stood on the palace balcony. Ships from across the galaxy filled the sky above, gathered for the first Unity Festival. Humans, Volanthi, and dozens of other species mingled in the streets below. Do you remember what you asked me in the garden? Sir Aleth said. What I was afraid of. Daniel nodded. I was afraid of being wrong, she continued. I was afraid that everything I believed about my people and yours was a lie. I was afraid of what it would mean to change. She leaned against him. You helped me see that change is not weakness. It is growth. And I have grown more in this year than in all the years before. Daniel put his arm around her. Humans have a saying. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Sir Aleth laughed softly. Your species has strange wisdom. We are strange beings from a strange world. But we mean well. Below them, a Volanthi child played with human children, their laughter rising through the evening air. Old barriers crumbled. New friendships formed. The galaxy had watched a human be ridiculed. The galaxy had watched a human endure. And when the moment came, the galaxy had watched a human prove that the measure of a species is not in how they treat those who honor them, but in how they treat those who do not. Some lessons take millennia to learn. Others arrive in a single moment of choice. Daniel Carter had chosen patience over anger, sacrifice over revenge, hope over hatred. And the galaxy would never be the same.